Hey everyone, welcome back to K-Korner, the channel where we dive into the wild world of entitled people and their unbelievable stories. Hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's go. I'm not sure why I'm telling this story. I guess it's just one of those things that you have to get off your chest. Anyway, it all started when I was at the mall trying to do some shopping. My name is Alice, not my real name. I'm a 23-year-old woman, and I was just trying to enjoy my day. As I was walking through the aisles of a clothing store, I heard a commotion coming from the next aisle over. It sounded like someone was arguing with a salesperson. I didn't think much of it at first, but as I got closer, I realized that it was a full-blown screaming match. Are you kidding me? My daughter deserves the best, and this store clearly doesn't carry it. The woman shouting was around 40 years old with long blonde hair and an air of entitlement that could be felt from across the store. The salesperson, a young man named Josh who looked to be around my age, was doing his best to remain calm. Ma'am, we have a wide variety of products, but if there's something specific you're looking for, I'd be happy to help you find it. The woman scoffed. I doubted. You clearly don't know what you're doing. Let me speak to your manager. As the woman stormed off in a huff, I could see that Josh was visibly shaken. I decided to step in and offer my support. Hey, are you okay? Josh looked up at me and sighed. Yeah, I'm fine. It's just frustrating dealing with people like that. I nodded in agreement. Tell me about it. Some people think they're entitled to everything. Josh laughed.
Yeah, like they're the only ones who matter.
We chatted for a few more minutes and I could tell that Josh was starting to feel better. As I walked away, I felt a sense of satisfaction. It's always nice to help someone out, even if it's just a small thing. Little did I know, the entitled woman wasn't done causing trouble. As I was leaving the store, I heard her shouting again. This time, it was directed at me. Excuse me, you girl with the blue shirt. I turned around to see the woman storming toward me, her face red with anger. I raised an eyebrow. Can I help you? You were talking to that salesperson, weren't you? The woman was practically foaming at the mouth. I nodded cautiously. Yeah, what about it? Well, I hope you're happy. Because of you, he's going to get fired. The woman sneered at me. I shook my head in disbelief. What are you talking about? I didn't do anything wrong. The woman's eyes narrowed. You were distracting him from his job. He's lucky I don't get him fired right now. I rolled my eyes. You can't just get someone fired for talking to a customer. And besides, he was the one who initiated the conversation. The entitled woman was losing her temper fast. How dare you talk back to me like that? You're just a stupid girl who doesn't know her place. I felt my own temper start to rise. Excuse me, just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I'm stupid. And I know my place just fine. Thanks. The entitled woman looked like she was about to explode. That's it, I've had enough of your attitude. She lunged towards me, fists raised. I sidestepped her easily and watched as she stumbled forward, almost falling to the ground. Nice try, but you're going to have to do better than that. The entitled woman glared at me. You think you're so smart, don't you? Well, let's see how you handle this. She lunged at me again, this time swinging a handbag in my direction. I quickly dodged out of the way, narrowly avoiding the swinging bag. Okay, this is getting ridiculous, I said, trying to reason with her. Let's just calm down and talk this out like adults. But the entitled woman wasn't interested in talking. She swung the handbag again, this time aiming for my head. I ducked and felt the bag whizzing past my ear. Okay, that's it, I said, my patience running thin. I'm not going to stand here and let you attack me. I grabbed the woman's arm and twisted it behind her back, causing her to scream out in pain. She struggled against my grip, but I was too strong for her. Let go of me, you psycho, she shouted. I'll let go when you calm down, I said firmly, not backing down. You can't just go around attacking people because you're having a bad day. After a few minutes, the entitled woman finally stopped struggling. Okay, I'm sorry, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I released my grip on her arm and stepped back, giving her some space. Good. Now, let's try to be civil and talk this out. To my surprise, the entitled woman actually seemed to listen to me. We had a conversation, and I managed to diffuse the situation. By the end of it, we even managed to exchange apologies. As I walked away from the scene, I couldn't help but shake my head in disbelief. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like that, but I guess you never know what's going to happen when you're dealing with entitled parents. In the end, I learned that Sometimes it's important to stand up for yourself, even if it means getting into a physical altercation. And sometimes the best way to handle an entitled person is to simply talk to them and treat them like a human being. As for the entitled woman, I never saw her again. But I can only hope that our interaction taught her something about how to treat people with respect. Okay, that was my first time in the USA, my first contact with a Karen, and my first contact with this. I don't work here, lady stuff. I'm a 30-year-old guy traveling with my family to Miami to shop and stuff. There was a nice mall in front of our hotel, which I believe I can't say the name, but since it's a very famous shopping mall with a marine mammal in its name, let's call it whale shopping. The shopping mall is big and very exciting. It was pretty fun to see different people at the same time and place from all over the world. I went to a clothing store and bought something for myself. Suddenly a female customer, let's call her Karen, approached me. Karen, excuse me, do you have it in a large size? At first I thought something like, you know what? I want to help this lady. I looked around and found the same shirt in a larger size. Me, I found this one. Take a look. She took it from me and then gave it back. Karen, okay, I'll buy it. Me, okay, and gave it back to her. When she stared back, I realized what was going on. Me, oh, I don't work here. I'm sorry. She took her glasses off. Karen, okay, can you call the manager, please? Again, I know I probably made the wrong decision, but it was my first trip out of my country. I really thought that the best thing to do was try to help and then leave. So I went to a guy at the register and told him what was going on. That lady thought I worked here. Now she wants to talk with the manager. I just tried to help. I'm sorry. The guy gave me a smile, trying not to laugh, and said, Guy, Wild Karen appears. Oh. I got the Pokemon reference from there, but at that time I thought she was a well-known customer named Karen. The guy was going upstairs to find the manager. Since I was so trying to help, I made my last and unforgivable mistake in my life. I called her. I approached her and said, Me, Mims, Karen, the guy on the register was... Karen, how dare you? Who do you think you were talking to? I got pale. I just froze while the entire store was looking, lifted up my hands the exact way I'd do if I got robbed, or if a crazy dog was barking at me. For about 5 min, which felt like an hour, she was saying all sorts of things. Slowly, I was approaching the register, as if I was a little deer scared by a wolf or a wild boar. She was following me, of course, step by step. I saw the manager approaching as my great white horse knight was ready to protect me from that dragon. Karen, I demand you fire this. This lazy employee, wasn't that the word, but okay. The manager took a look at me and I slowly dropped my hands down. Manager, okay, lady. This guy tried to help you for what I was told, but he doesn't work here. Karen seemed to be satisfied. Karen, oh my, you Latinos are just lazy, aren't you? Manager, if you don't back off and leave this store, I will call the police and me and this guy, pointed to me, are going to press charges for racism. Karen left. Man, I was like, what the heck just happened? The guy on register asked me if I was good and explained me what is a Karen. It took a long time to realize things like so because of how I look. It doesn't seem like I'd be a customer too, and stuff like that. Oh, and the employees realized that I didn't want to leave right away to not risk finding Karen again. So they started to joke about it. First, Karen, we never forget, there was a Reddit about it. Here, so you just lost your Karen virginity. The girl on the register suggested calling her Whale Mall. Karen and told me about her experience on Karen's. Found a Karen and new friends on the same day. Let me start with I have dry mouth due to multiple medications I take for mental health and disabilities. It sucks. My throat feels sticky, and the only ways I can get my salivary glands working is by putting something in my mouth or drinking something besides water. It's even worse when it decides to act up and I'm away from home or one of the few times I actually forget to grab something, usually Tic Tacs or gum. One day, me and my mom had to go shopping, and in the middle of our trip, I feel it. That nasty, tacky feeling like someone smeared peanut butter in my throat. I was lucky that day as I'd remembered to grab my pack of gum before we left the house. So I pulled it out. Parts of the label are rubbed off. It's wrinkled and bent and mostly empty. I have 3 pieces left. I popped one and continued with my shopping. Apparently, the manager saw the brand and the casing of the pack and assumed I was stealing it. We continued our shopping, completely unaware of the catastrophe right for us. While we were in line to check out, my mom remembers something we forgot to grab and sends me back for it. Unbeknown to me, the manager had followed me. I hadn't even gotten to the needed aisle before he grabbed my arm and dragged me back to the front where the cops were waiting. As he dragged me to the front, he kept saying things like he was going to have me arrested for stealing, I'm a stupid jerk for trying it in his store, and that he'd make sure I would go to jail. I was too stunned to even retaliate as my brain struggled to grasp the situation or why a stranger, let alone a man, was touching me. I don't like to be touched. I don't even like to hug, so this guy wasn't just crossing the line. He crossed the damn border. My mother saw all of this and stormed over, demanding to know why he had his hands on me. He spews his nonsense about catching me putting packs, plural, of gum and candy in my purse. My mother started arguing with him, saying that she knows I would never do that she raised me better. I'm silent for the whole exchange, knowing my mother had plenty of experience with power-high people, as she was a social worker before she retired. I knew it would be best if I just kept quiet and let her take this battle. To my shock and my mother's fury, I was forced to sit in the back of a police car while she tried to sort this whole mess out. While I'm sitting in the cruiser, my mind is racing with what the hell just happened. I don't handle stress very well, and I'm prone to getting worked up just short of an anxiety attack in confrontational situations. One of the officers came out and asked for my purse. I'm still reeling from the situation and doing my best not to break down. I wasn't about to say no and just handed it over. This next part is secondhand, as I was stuck in the cruiser bawling my eyes out and trying to calm myself down, because I know I did nothing wrong. The officer brought my purse to my mother and she dumped it out on the manager's desk. A bunch of stuff fell out, a half-used mini art pad, a Faber-Castell pen, a bunch of change and bills, my wallet, several receipts, and the cause for all of this, my 3-4 empty pack of gum. My mom handed the pack to the officer and asked, "Does this look like she just stole it right off the shelf? And where is all the candy he says she took?" This is harassment. He had no proof before he called you. Now my daughter is in a cop car freaking out because she's just been threatened for something she clearly did not do. The officers rummaged through my stuff and couldn't find anything that would have warranted a call. I can imagine my mother sitting across from the manager giving him an icy glare that was usually reserved for work or court. Of course, the manager isn't about to back down and starts grasping at straws for why I need to be arrested when my mom drops the bombshell that made even the cops bland. "You realize my daughter is mentally handicapped, and I do not appreciate the way you've handled this situation, effectively terrorizing her and have her arrested when you're the one who screwed up. You're lucky I don't take this over your heads as a discrimination case. I'm XX, and I am not someone you want to take on." My family name at the time was one still whispered about among the police, firefighters, social workers, and school boards. My mom had to fight the school board for all 4 of her kids for various reasons I don't feel like getting into. The point is, she was notorious among cops, social workers, and the schools for not tolerating such behavior. My father, as a volunteer fireman, was known by both the cops and other firefighters as well as members of the hospital. He was very well regarded since he had burns from one particular fire. There were judges that remembered my mother fondly and liked her no-nonsense methods and her tendency to be thorough and covering all the bases. Our name was known across 5 counties by judges and social workers. They knew that if my mom got involved, it meant someone screwed up and she was going to get things done and take no prisoners. So she wasn't kidding when she said she wasn't one to mess with. The cops came back out and let me out of the car, startled at my splotchy, ugly crying. They took me to the door where we waited for my mother, and they apologized for the misunderstanding. We left without our groceries. On the ride home, I was still crying, trying to ask what happened. She was still fuming when she told me that I was banned from the store, that if I even set foot in the parking lot, I would be arrested. Forward several years, and the store is under new management. A younger guy who was more forgiving and didn't accuse anyone without solid evidence of wrongdoing. Apparently, I wasn't the only one the previous manager had banned. There were over 15 people banned from the store property, which confused the new management. Our store had the most people banned in our county, and he wanted to know why they had so many big spenders on the no trespass list. He reviewed every single case and why each person was banned and was not at all happy about all the banal things they had lost great and loyal customers over. Tube top in the summer heat. Indecent exposure is banned. Remove a shoe to scratch an itch. You don't have shoes on. Get out. Kids pocket some candy from the open display, but the parents found out and was going to pay for it. Too bad your kids are criminals. You're banned for life. Get out. Someone accidentally drops a case of expensive soda. Willful destruction of property. Not sure what channels he went through to do it, but he managed to get my mom's phone number and called to inform us my ban was lifted. My mom put him on speaker as he profusely apologized, saying the previous manager was fired for his poor attitude towards customers. He explained that corporate viewed my ban as malicious and unfair considering the lack of proof and that police involvement was premature. He again apologized for any distress the event may have caused me and offered to have our next grocery trip fully comped as an official apology. My mother thanked him but said it would be a cold day in hell before she stepped foot in their store again. Since I don't have a car and can't drive, neither would I. Several more years passed, and we eventually were forced to go there as the other two stores didn't have what we needed. My mother said for me to come with her, but to pop my gum now and leave my purse. She was going to test their claim. I was a nervous wreck the whole time we were in there, expecting someone to pop out and say the cops were on their way to arrest me. By the time we got to check out, I was visibly shaking and breathing hard. The cashier takes my mother's check, sees the name, and tells her to wait a moment. She gets her manager, and I'm internally screaming, "This was a mistake! I'm going to jail!" He comes up to the till and smiles at us. He sees my condition, and I'd like to believe he was cursing out his predecessor for traumatizing someone enough to have this kind of reaction to a manager. I was on the verge of tears. He smiles and introduces himself as the manager and apologizes again for the circumstances of my ban. I'm not used to people acknowledging me and didn't know how to respond to this. He looked me in the eye and said such offensive behavior in a community with a high concentration of disabled persons was unacceptable, and the previous manager was let go for trying it again with a blind student. He offers to comp our purchase, under $50, and offers a gift card for the years of inconvenience we had to go through. He made me feel more at ease, and I accepted his apology but refused to let them comp such a cheap purchase. I did, however, accept the gift card as we had a birthday in the family coming up, and we could use it for party food and cake. We go there now, only when we have no other choice, but I'm no longer nervous to go in by myself to grab a few things, which is awesome. They're the only store that carries my favorite brand of gourmet soda, which was one of the first things I bought. Best $8 I've ever spent. Enjoying the stories yet? If you do, please subscribe, like, and comment. I was walking home from a friend's house, and on the way back, I was walking close to the curb, but not exactly next to it. I wasn't focusing since I was listening to music, and suddenly I saw a car go onto part of the pavement, and the side mirror hit me in the gut, and it hurt bad. I was trying to catch my breath by leaning on the wall opposite, and that's when she stepped out of her car, showing all her ugly glory. The conversation went as follows. Entitled Mother, what you think you're doing? Me, coughing. You hit me with your car. You broke my side mirror. You have to pay for that. You went onto the pavement, hit me with it, and you expect me to pay? That's when she walked up to me and punched me in my gut, right where she hit me with her car. Punched me multiple times, rings and all. I swear I coughed up blood. She then noticed my phone and tried to take it. If you're not going to pay, I'll just take your phone and bracelet as compensation. This crossed the line. My phone is one thing, but my bracelet is another. That bracelet holds so much value to me. The bracelet is one that I got from my parents while they were in Tunisia, and it says my name in Arabic. I love this bracelet. I resisted as much as I could, all the while screaming, and that's when I saw another woman, who will be known as Hero, push her away from me. Entitled Mother, he took my daughter's phone and bracelet from her. I saw her daughter in the car. She could not be older than 8. Hero, I saw everything. My hero turns to me. Are you okay? I think so, although I did cough up blood not too long ago. What's your name? I told her my name. I'll call an ambulance. My hero turns to the entitled mother. I suggest you leave before I make you. But... Now, the entitled mother left. I went to the hospital. I didn't have any serious injuries, but she left a massive purple bruise on my stomach. While at the hospital, Hero said that she took a picture of her registration plate and will report her to the police. We exchanged phone numbers and she stayed with me until I could leave the hospital, which was late last night. Still feeling in pain, but it's not as bad as what it was. Edit 1. I spoke with Hero about details and went to the police station with the evidence and information we have and locate the entitled mother. Said that if we could get a court case sometime in August, late July at the earliest. Once a date has been confirmed, I shall let you know. Edit 2. I got a call from my local police station. The entitled mother has been found. Charges were pressed and got a confirmed court date being August 7th. We've both been to the station for separate interrogations, and Hero will be accompanying me as my key witness. Apparently there are others as well, but I'm not sure who they are. It's been around 2 years, and I'm back. I guess you could call this half an update, half a new situation. I posted before about my sister and her husband pranking me relentlessly while we were camping together, and I bought a cab-over camper that kept me safe from their shenanigans. I used to not like camping much, but since getting the camper, I've enjoyed it quite well. I had solar panels installed on it and put in a small TV that I play retro video games on. My nephews love the camper too. So much that even my sister and brother-in-law begrudgingly gave up tents last year because of how much their kids said they didn't want to sleep in tents anymore. I guess you could say they were the last in the group to do so. Rather than a cab-over, they got a camper trailer since they have an SUV. Their friends all got campers before them too. Pretty much every single person who was in the yearly tent camping friend group now have campers of varying sorts. It ended up being like a keep up with the Joneses mentality. I got a camper, and someone else did. And then someone else after that, and now it's all of them. I guess you could say it's more like we're all glamping now. But we love it. Until we hear one of the campers rocking at night anyway. That's when the earplugs come in handy. Even my mother, who previously hated camping and had forced me to go all those times just to babysit the drunks, now has a camper. She got a little one-person teardrop camper that towed behind her Subaru with ease. And she loves a quiet night laying in it and reading her favorite books. She mainly comes along for the sake of my nephews, though, because she kept putting it on me before and I called her out for it. My sister was initially a bit of a witch about the situation, though. She had some sort of crazy idea that she was in charge when we went camping, and my brother-in-law just went along with it, to which I called him a tool. Well, once the camper craze hit the following summer, it was half campers, half tent. And my sister told me it was all my fault that things had changed. I told her to stop acting like she was half her age and move on. Besides, this only started because I just wanted peace and had to buy a camper just to get it. Had they respected me instead of treating me like a target, maybe things would still be as they were. She tried to argue further, but I threatened to make a spectacle of the situation if she didn't let it go. Later, I heard it was quite a scuffle between my sister and brother-in-law when he finally said they needed a camper, too. Boy, do I wish I could have been a fly on the wall for that. But it worked because now they have a small camper trail. An 80s model, I think. Brother-in-law bought it with some damage and fixed it up himself. Though unlike me, they don't allow video game systems in their camper. So the kids come to me a lot. Near the end of last July, my sister asked me to set aside time off work to go on one more camping trip in early September before school started for her kid. And I agreed, albeit reminding her that I wanted no pranks done to me. And she made it pretty clear she was still unhappy I'm a spoil sport about it. But what could she do? It didn't end well for her after making my last post. None of the people in the group have tried to mess with me while trying to reclaim their frat youth since they were called out as bullies 2 years ago. Funny thing is, having campers now is actually making them act a bit more their age when they drink. And I'm pleased to say I haven't seen any of them so crazy that they're running around in their underwear and yelling out random nonsense anymore. But they still say and do stupid crap. And while I don't enjoy those shenanigans, I do like the drinking games, the campfires, the barbecue, the marshmallows, etc. It's a nice escape from my home life. It was getting chilly early last year in our area with fall making its way in a little sooner than expected. So the last few days before school started, we had mild rain and temps in the mid-60s during the day and even colder at night. Fine with me, I have a propane buddy heater. So I wasn't cold, but bragging about the heater was what drew in a wild Corinne. I'd never before met one on this level. I mostly just read about them online. But by God, she was just like the ones I've heard so much about. She didn't really have the Karen look, though. She had long, shoulder-length brown hair, maybe late 30s to early 40s, and was a bit thick. But man, did she have a mean look about her that just made me want to turn and go the other way. The campsite we went to had a small vendor store at it that sold basic supplies and some foods. I rode in on my old MTB and bought a soda. I'd met another guy while out riding on the trails, and he had a crazy bike made out of a vintage beach cruiser I learned was called a clunker. He was very specific. It was spelled with a K. And he told me he builds clunkers for fun out of his garage and gives them away. We were having fun talking about bikes, but then we started feeling the soft patter of rain, and the evening chills were coming in. The guy I rode with said it was going to suck sleeping that night since he was camping in the canopy of his truck. I remarked I'd be warm because I have a portable propane heater, and how I just need to turn it on for an hour before bed and I sleep nice and toasty. Then some lady I'd never met before stepped in front of us and asked me about my heater. I quickly described what it was, how much it was, and where to get one before moving along. But this woman started following me. I locked my bike and then ended up face-to-face with this lady like when Victor turned and was face-to-face with the corpse bride. She was suddenly asking to borrow my heater and coming closer at the same time. I got really awkward and tried to get her to let it go. But being polite got me nowhere. The lady kept stepping in front of me and was whining about how it was colder and wetter than expected. And she and her kids couldn't go home for 2 more days. I just told her sorry and ran around her to my camper. But she kept following and was berating me that I have no compassion for a mother. Inside the camper, my 2 nephews were in there playing Mario Kart Double Dash on a GameCube I'd brought, and the woman instantly became furious about my setup. She refused to let me close the door and yelled that I might as well just be at home if this was the kind of camping I'm doing. Then she actually tried to force her way in while yelling something about me being entitled and had it too good while her kids didn't hardly have anything. I blocked the way in and nearly shoved her out with my foot. Now enter my mother. She's a bit of a Karen in her own right, but most definitely a mama bear too. She saw enough of what happened to interject before I got the chance to push the lady out. My mother yelled at her to get away from her son and grandbabies. The 2 of them had an epic screaming match that my sister soon joined in on until a few more people in our camping group showed up and began laying into that lady too. Realizing how outnumbered she was, Karen took off. She didn't bother us again. And one of the guys in our camping group was kind of upset by that because he was keeping a super soaker loaded and ready in case she did come back. I did see the Karen a couple more times around the area, but she avoided eye contact. I did see her campsite while riding my bike, and she had an okay-looking tent, but her kids really didn't look happy. I don't know what her story was or why she was stuck there. Maybe she was temporarily without residence or something. I don't know. But I do know that she went way too far before when trying to get into my camper. Her problems weren't mine to solve. Sadly, I didn't notice till right as we were all packing up to leave, but the tires on my bike had been slashed. I couldn't prove it was the Karen, but I'm pretty sure it was her. I fixed the bike easily enough. Just needed new tubes and tires. But I was still mad. R.I.P. that bike, though, because my neighbor's son who just got his driver's license ran it over last November. It was old, anyway. My brother-in-law gave me his old EMTB to replace it, and I saved the new tires I bought for my old one to put on it. I waited all this time since the incident to post because I figured my sister would go looking here right away. Don't know whether she did or not. But it's here now. I was part of a team shooting a short corporate training video. It was on visitor policies for front office workers of a regional healthcare operation. It showcased various scenarios involving visitors that might come up on the job and the do's and don'ts in each case. No one was chasing an Oscar here, but it was still quite high budget and professional. With one exception. The corporation had granted us access to a front office area at one of their locations to use as a set, but they hadn't thought to notify all the practitioners in the building that they'd be shooting. It was a weekend when they're typically closed for business, so I guess they just took for granted things would be shut down. But there are dozens of private offices of employees in these buildings, and a couple people chose to work weekends. As a result, their patients and clients kept streaming through the lobby while we tried to do this. For the most part, it didn't actually matter. Those who even noticed us at all could see we were filming and at worst took a couple pictures, then left well enough alone. Until Karen and Karen Jar breezed in. But we'll call them Wanda and Wanda Jerk. Because my mother is named Karen and she's a wonderful woman. And my ex-wife is named Wanda, and this is exactly the crap I could see her getting up to. Anyways, we were shooting a scenario in which a third-party contractor approaches the desk attempting to gain entry, e.g. a delivery person, a maintenance worker, etc. We were using a water guy. There's an elaborate procedure that's supposed to be demonstrated in the video. It takes several excruciating shots to get correct. We're finally approaching the finish line when, oh my God, are you making a movie? My daughter is an actress. She'd be great in any movie. Give her any line to read. Any part. She will nail it. What kind of movie is it? We had a PA who was assigned to play defense against anything like this when we realized the building was semi-open to the public, but things had been going so smoothly for so long, he took his eye off the ball. A crew member pulled her to the side and patiently explained, "Sorry, ma'am, no movie. Just a corporate thing. You can go that way to your appointment," trying to politely but clearly signal that she needed to move along. That went in one ear and immediately out. She grabbed Wanda Jerk and dragged her over, practically shrieking at this point, "Oh, good!" No, that's so good. Things like this prove dynamism. It'll be priceless for her reel. And you'd be lucky to have her, trust me. Any part, just name any part, and they'll blow it out of the water. You should see her do Titanic, actually, speaking of, but name any part. She's ready. Wanda Jerk looked anything but ready. She looked exhausted, mortified, and a little nervous. I didn't know if she was scared by the confrontation or at the premise of being given a role. Not that it mattered. The content of these videos is dictated by powers that be. We can't just go adding anything. A more senior crew member tried to reason with them at this point, realizing the whole ordeal was really beginning to hold us up. He emphasized to Wanda, this is a training video for this business. That means it will only ever be seen by people who work here. And not even every single one of them. Those who do see it, there isn't even a credit. So, please, he gestured broadly at our operation that had ground to a halt, hoping the point had been made. Okay, so just put her in as an extra or something. She doesn't have to speak. You're all so sensitive, Wanda griped. You almost had to admire her dedication at that point, but she wasn't advocating for herself. She was haranguing us on behalf of her daughter, who was cowering in a corner a ways away, seemingly totally uninterested in any of this. A few of us got together and discussed our next steps. We decided to just continue shooting and hope for the best. We did, and you can guess what happened. Wanda dragged Wanda Jerk back over and tried to plop her down in the middle of the shot. We reset at a slightly different angle and rolled again. Wanda herself made a ton of noise and did everything possible to be disruptive. We got together in a small group again. We discussed waiting and coming back to finish another day, but we were already severely behind schedule for that day, so would likely need an entire extra day of filming if we went this route, which was not logistically feasible. We discussed calling the authorities. We did have a film permit, but that doesn't go so long a ways in keeping strangers out as you'd think it does, and isn't necessarily enough to even get the police out at all. Finally, we didn't want to generate any negative buzz with the company. We film corporate-type videos often, and we're not keen on a reputation of being hostile to clients or creating hostile scenes inside public-facing areas. Then, the PI had quite the idea. An upcoming scene was what to do when emergency services seek to enter the building, e.g., firemen, security, police, etc. And as such, we had a cop costume and an actor primed and ready to play a cop, all just laying around. We only had to cross our fingers at Wanda and Jar. Did not notice the cop had a same dayside hustle as a water guy. So, it took a little bit. Wanda planted her feet the entire time, taking glamour shots of Jar in front of our modest camera equipment. Then, the cop arrived. We recast him as a security guard so no one would go to jail for impersonating some public official. He swaggered up to the front desk and declared, "Someone contacted security. We'll need access," which is actually also more or less his first line. A few of us were nervous he'd forgotten the mission and defaulted to his practice content. But no. The desk lady was unflappable. Everyone was on their game. "Thank you, sir." Was it an emergency or non-emergency call? Also essentially the desk lady's first line. Now we were really all holding our breath. One of the senior crew steps in. "Yeah, hi," I called. He briefly explains that we're trying to film and what's gone on. Our officer nodded and told Wanda, quite authoritatively, "All right, ma'am. Move along, please." This section of the building is closed to the public and there's absolutely no loitering. She continued taking her glamour shots. Photo and video are also strictly prohibited. That's a HIPAA violation. "I might need to report that." Wanda huffed, puffed, and pouted, but she didn't know what to say. The best she could come up with was, "I had an appointment." "I can be here if I want to which our officer replied, "No, ma'am. You can be in the office where you had your appointment. And if they've asked you to leave, then you have to go." The rest of the building is closed but for traffic to and from private offices. Think of it this way. If I have an appointment in Dr. Smith's office, am I entitled to go into Dr. Jones's office just because it's in the same building? Or am I entitled to stay in Dr. Smith's office for the rest of my life because I had an appointment there? He stared blankly at Wanda, who threw a stapler off the desk in her fury. "Oh, no, there will be none of that." "Let's go before I have to escalate the matter," our officer warned, with certainly no plan as to what he'd do next. So we held our breath. But she left. This was during the writers-actors. Everyone strike, so she yelled out as she left, "I'm going to report you to all the unions as scabs UFs," as though our corporate training video in Middle America was a union acting job. While it was frustrating to be off schedule, I mostly just feel bad for Wanda. I hope she gets to spend plenty of alone time with Dad to even out the crazy. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating stories. Share your own experiences, opinions in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay tuned for more epic tales.